Remember how, as kids, we're always taught to do as we're told? Do as I say. Well, because I said so, young lady. Things I hear myself saying to my own son sometimes, and those are messages that tend to follow us into adulthood, right? But doesn't there come a time in our lives where it really no longer serves us to simply do as we're told? Imagine that you're the parent of a cute, playful little 2-year-old, and you're strolling one day holding his pudgy little hand down the hallway casually into your doctor's office to have what you think is something very innocent checked out. And in that office, a bomb drops on your life. I'm so sorry, but this is an autoimmune condition. It's a long-term chronic health condition. There's really no good treatment options for this one. There's nothing that can be done. You're just going to have to learn to live with it. Now imagine how you'd be feeling in that moment. For me, it was terrified, devastated, but I think the worst thing for me was feeling powerless. Powerless to do the one thing I am supposed to do as a mother, that's protect my son. And anybody who has been through the medical system in any way and received any kind of diagnosis knows that it's a pretty disempowering experience, right? We're very much taught that our own health lies in the hands of other people, that we have no particular control or power over our health, and so we must bow to the almighty professionals and the system and simply just do as you're told. Now, luckily for me and my son, I had some examples in my life of people who didn't exactly do it that way, and a pretty strong inner voice that kept saying, don't listen to them. Don't give up. You have to try. What if there could be another way? My inner rebel took a stand that day, and I'm so glad that I listened. It's because of her that I've been able to help my son. My husband and I rejected this mainstream medical model that said there was nothing to be done to find balance in this little body. And instead we turned to functional medicine, and we turned to gut healing protocols. And that meant we also rejected mainstream corporate nutrition and turned to holistic nutrition and the things that we had control over as parents. And that was the food he was eating and the environment he lived in. About a year later, I walked back into my doctor's office with pictures of the progress we were making with my son. And she actually patted me on the back and said, Deborah, I don't know, congratulations. I mean, you did what everybody told you you couldn't do. Now, I tell you that story as just one very small example of what is possible for us when we refuse to accept the status quo and simply do as we're told. So today, you're here at a wellness talk. So some of you may be on your own journey with your own health. And maybe it's time for your rebel spirit to take a stand. Because to make a difference for yourself or for someone else, you have to be willing to step out and conquer compliance. So that when you're told there is no way, you find your own way. Now, I found through my experience, there's a few things that kind of help guide you on this rebel spirit path and help you to find your own way. And I refer back to these things myself a lot when life brings up challenges that require me to stand up and conquer that compliance. So the first thing is acceptance. That might sound a little contrary maybe to this idea of the rebel spirit, but it is essential. No amount of fighting or anger or pushing back against it was going to change the fact that my son was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. It was real. And when we get into this space of fighting against something, doesn't it just keep us trapped in that energy and stuck there, and we're not really making any difference for ourselves? So we can come to a place instead of saying, okay, God, universe, whatever you like to call it, here we are. This is here. It's real. I don't like it, but I accept it. And now what? Show me what's next. So I said I had some shining examples in my life of people who'd done it a different way, and one was a dear friend of mine whose son was diagnosed at the age of 3 with severe autism, and they were told he would never speak. Nothing they could do about it. They shouldn't hold up much hope for his life. And I watched my friend struggle with that diagnosis, looking for second opinions, researching, hoping, of course, hoping that there had been some mistake. But ironically, when she found that place of acceptance, that's when she started making a difference for her son. You see, acceptance isn't about lying down and doing nothing, but it's about getting out of our own way. So then we have the power and the guidance to see what's next. So when she accepted the diagnosis, then she was able to see the options. She dove into alternative medicine, gut healing protocols, all the alternative therapies she could get her hands on. And her son is now a 13-year-old thriving little boy who talks a blue streak. Let me tell you, his vocabulary is probably better than yours and mine. And the most important thing is that he's a happy, social little boy, capable now of living up to his full potential. Because his mother accepted the situation, but refused to simply do as she was told and give up on her son. That's acceptance. The next thing is to open to possibility that there could be a different way, right? If you're not open, you won't see it if it's right here. Okay, we have to open to the possibility of what could help us. And another of my shining examples from my life was in my childhood. A dear family friend who was like a grandma to me was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. And the doctors told her there really wasn't much to be done. They could prolong her life, but she needed to go home and get her affairs in order and prepare to die. And I will never forget the day that she gathered together her family and friends and told us, I will not die of cancer. She decided to go down to a clinic in Mexico and pursue some alternative therapies. And of course her family was worried about it. The doctors were up in arms. No, that's dangerous. You can't do that. You need to go home prepared to die. What are you doing going to Mexico right now? But she did it anyway. She saw there might be possibility there. She was open to trying it. She had nothing to lose. She went to that clinic and she came home and lived to be a very old woman. She had the courage and the strength to stand in that moment of powerlessness and still open to what might be possible. And because of that, she refused to do what she was told to do and die. She opened to the possibility. There is great power in simply saying, all right, I'm open. Show me. Bring it. What's next? The next thing is stillness. When we are called to go in this path of transforming our health, and sometimes that means we have to challenge a medical system that's telling us otherwise. We need to get informed, we need to dig, we need to challenge, we need to talk to people, but sometimes that can get pretty overwhelming. And we can get really caught up in this frantic search for solutions And if anybody's ever spent any time with Dr. Google, you know it's a pretty big rabbit hole, right? We can get kind of lost in there, don't know what to do. And we get so caught in that frantic search that we're not really doing anything of any good. So that's the time when we have to step back. Just take a breath. Find that place of stillness where we can connect with the whispers of our intuition, so that when the paths open up for us and the guidance comes, we can follow it and take the action that's going to make the difference. And this one has been a saving grace for me in my journey with my son, still is today, to just take that step back from my frantic brain and breathe, and from that calm space, take action, because that space is where we are most effective, right? That calm, centered space. We're not reacting out of fear. We're not jumping around willy-nilly from thing to thing. We're not confused. We're centered and grounded and taking conscious action. So that leads then to number 4, take action. From that place of stillness, you should be able to step out of analysis paralysis and start taking some conscious action that will make a difference for you in your life. And sometimes these are the smallest things, right? Food. We changed the way we ate, got rid of a few chemicals in our house. Not a big deal. Huge impact for my son. Working with clients that are wanting to take action to change their health, and now I'm writing a book called The Mama Bear Effect, so I've come up with this little diagram. I call it the parent power pyramid because mostly I work with kids. But it's sort of a visual that tells you the different layers that we can work on personally that will affect and improve health. And you'll notice that the very base of this pyramid is the simplest things: food, environment, and gut healing. That's where the majority of our power lies, and just working on these things will affect the things further up the chain in the healing pyramid. These are all triggers for chronic disease and illness of all kinds. So working here affects the other layers. And for many people, simply working on the base of this pyramid is enough. That's where we achieved the majority of the success that we've had with my son. That's what led to the success of showing my doctor those pictures. Just working on that base level. And for some people, you're going to need to dig deeper into detoxification and the chronic infections that could be there. And sometimes then that means we call in the help of other professionals, naturopaths and functional medicine doctors. And as life would have it, that's where we are with my son right now. And I debated whether to include this part tonight because it's pretty raw for me still at the moment. But I think it's really important that I share this so that you can understand that the journey to healing is not a straight line. And we just have to keep working. Recently, my son has been diagnosed with pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder. Mouthful, and kind of as scary as it sounds. It's rocked my world. It has sent me back through all of the things that I'm talking to you about today, especially acceptance. I have to work on that one every day. But I know from what I've seen before, I have seen him through this before with one condition, and I know we're on the right track. This is just his body showing us, hey, there's more to be done here. My healing's not complete, and we're digging in to these layers more. We're getting some help in there, and we will get there. It's just an invitation to go deeper. So healing is not a straight line, but don't give up. You just dig deeper. The next one, sometimes the hardest one, patience, persistence, and blessings. Honestly, I think we can all think of things in our lives where life crushes us and brings us to our knees. And there's days when I find it hard to breathe. But I know that I have to be patient on this journey. Would I like to snap my fingers and find some miracle cure for him and just be able to give him some medicine, it would all be gone? Yes, of course. But I know that's not the way this works. When we're talking about root level healing, healing on the deepest, truest level, it takes time and it takes patience. And so I have to remember every day to be patient and to be persistent in what I'm doing, in digging in to these layers of healing. Because with persistence comes success. And then, somehow, in all of this, in all of the struggles that we go through, finding some space to find blessings. Even in our most challenging, dark times, there are blessings. And I know I have always hated it when people say that to me, but it's true. I'm probably becoming a way better parent now because of my experience with this. My husband and I are working as a team better than we ever have in our lives. And my son and I have connected and have some powerful, sweet, wonderful conversations because of what we're going through. So yes, there are blessings and there is joy. And you have to allow yourself to embrace that part of the experience as well. So when you find that stillness, from the stillness comes the patience, the persistence, the ability to step forward and take the action, and eventually the ability to see the blessings that are hidden down in there somewhere. So I've given you some examples, I hope fairly powerful examples of people who have staged small acts of rebellion, people who have refused to accept the status quo and challenged an autocratic medical system and come out victorious. And I don't know about you, but I think the world needs a whole heck of a lot more of those small acts of rebellion. So if you're on a journey with your wellness, I'd like you to ask yourself today, what could be different for me in my life if I invited in a little bit of the spirit of that rebel, if I followed some of these concepts and stood up and conquered compliance? You can find out more about me and my classes and stuff if you'd like on my website at kidshealthrevolution.com.